real quick, we kind of just discussed a little bit of this, and maybe it's just my own opinion. You guys can just say you've already said yours, but keys to the game here for
Sure.
a second. Um, I really think, much like it was against Arizona, and much like it was against Stony Brook, and honestly, like it was against Ohio State, getting that first touchdown, I think a good start is very important to dictate the tempo and the style of game that we see on Saturday from Oregon. I think it's imperative that they are the first to score, and I think it's imperative that they get a stop and then can score again and get yourself up by two scores in this game. And kind of, even if Stanford already expects to be one dimensional, force them to be one dimensional. Like, I don't think Stanford is a team that even if they were healthy is built to be one that comes back from a double digit deficit. Like, they do not play well when they are behind by, like, a big lead, or a big margin. So I think for Oregon, that first quarter is going to set the tone and will dictate how this game goes, because if it's close after the end of the first quarter and Stanford is pushing just as much as Oregon's pushing, and they try and suck the clock out and really kind of slow this game down, and all of a sudden possessions become a luxury, that's how they win. That's how they're going to win this game. If it's a low scoring affair and you just can't get into rhythm because you don't have the football all that often. I think that played a factor in why the offense was so bad against Arizona. They went that third quarter having like what 6 or 7 plays total. It's hard to get into rhythm when you do that. So I think this first quarter, it's so cliche, but I think Oregon has to come out and just hammer Stanford early, because if you give hope and if you let them dictate how this game is going to be played, you're going to find yourself in a dogfight.
I think getting pressure off the edge for me is really big. I think just seeing that a shift, hopefully, with a more healthy front seven is significant. I think the thing that's been really glaring just the last couple of weeks is their inability to get there. And Thibodeau is literally the best in the country at this. He's going to require a double team if he's healthy, and that is going to be significant for everyone around him. And I made this point a while ago on a podcast. It's kind of like having that elite shot blocker in the back of the defense. I mean, think about if you're an Oregon men's basketball fan of what it felt like to have Jordan Bell or Kenny Wooten or Chris Boucher at the back end there, and how that changed things. And then think about years later, where maybe they didn't have a player like that. I'm not even going to pick a name because I would disparage somebody who wasn't very good, who was playing center after those guys, but there were guys who just weren't the same players defensively, and it shifts everything. I think Thibodeau is that same kind of a player in terms of getting to the quarterback, and even against the run, I think he is that imperative. He's if you talk about just above replacement, in baseball there's wins above replacement and it's a war. And I'm not going to try to say it's wins related, but just in terms of his capability above the people who've been replacing him is such a big gap. And I think it kind of gets lost. And it was a little bit less when it was Swinson, but still huge. When you're down to Trevin Ma'ai, I'm not taking shots at these guys because these are developing players who I'm really high on. I love what Trevin has shown at times. I love what Jake Shipley has shown at times. Brandon Buckner's had some great moments, but collectively they're not Kayvon Thibodeau, and they're not even Braden Swinson. So my hope is that we see just a much, much collectively and then individually with Thibodeau, a much better game of getting to the quarterback, of getting home, of forcing Tanner McKee to make tough decisions. That's another thing. The Stanford-led offense with Tanner McKee at quarterback has yet to turn it over. They have 2 turnovers all season. Those came early on against Kansas State when Jack West, who was the opening day starter, threw it away twice, 2 picks. McKee leading this offense has been perfect from that regard. Similar to Oregon with Anthony Brown, where there's 1 early first game turnover, and since then it's been perfect. I think the turnover part is crucial. And again, I think getting to the quarterback plays a huge role in that. If he can sit back there, he'll pick you apart. He's got good enough receivers to move it around. But if you get after him, you make it tough. He's not able to get set. You make him throw on the run. He doesn't like throwing on the run as much as he likes just throwing it in there in a sturdy pocket. Give the guy a 3-step drop, and he can throw right away on time, and he's going to kill you. But if you can get after him, make it tough, that's where things shift. So I think those two go hand in hand. But forcing turnovers and getting after the quarterback for a defense, I think, are really crucial. And then we've already talked about the offense. I think the run game is really important.
Yeah, I mean, I've already basically discussed the key to the game for me, where it's Oregon getting pressure with four guys just on a consistent basis. KT in his limited snaps last week against Arizona was double teamed in most of them, or they would purposely drive block him to the other side and try to run around him. It was good scheming by Arizona. Don't get me wrong, but if he commands double team, that's going to give single coverage or single blocking, excuse me, for Dorless, for Keon Ware-Hudson, for Mace Foon on the other side, Adrian Jackson even. Like those are the opportunities where Oregon can thrive in that situation. Again, we've only seen Oregon's front five, front seven fully healthy for a quarter, and we all remember what that was like. KT, first couple of plays of the game gets his fumble or his strip sack, and Braden Swinson gets another sack in the next drive after pressure from KT. Noah Sewell gets a forced fumble. That's the type of defense that you would hope to see in this week against Stanford. I know Braden Swinson isn't playing, right, but Mace Funa is still a very comparable player. He might not be as fast as Swinson, but he's still good on the defensive line. He can still, provide pressure from the outside. So if Oregon can get there with four, maybe five guys occasionally and force Tanner McKee to move or make quick decisions or make bad decisions, that's going to lead into a turnover at one point. And I think that Oregon's defensive line will be pretty good in the run game this week against Stanford, just because Stanford's offensive line, while it is good, it's just not as good as it has been in recent years. I think Oregon's defensive front has actually played pretty well this year at points. I didn't think they were terrible against Arizona for most of the game. I think there were points where they were bad, but I don't know. I go into this game thinking that the key to the game is to get Kayvon Thibodeau back. I think that's huge. If he can play a full game, he can give you as many snaps as he can. That will be a difference maker. That'll probably be the biggest difference maker of the season for Oregon if he can get back.